First step in tying a woolly bugger is to put the hook inside the vise. You want to make sure the shank of the hook is the top, is the flat part. You want to make sure it's nice and flat. Alright, the next step is to get your thread and start tying it in the middle of the hook, going back towards the end of the hook. You want to keep going until you get above the barb, which is a little piece of metal that sticks up from underneath the bottom. And then you cut off the extra material with your scissors. And keep going back to the curve. Alright, and then third step, take your marabou for your tail and you lay it across the hook. You want it to be about the same length as the top of the hook or the shank. With one hand, pinch the marabou, the other hand, wrap it on with the thread. You want to do this about 6 or 7 times to make sure it's on there good. Once you do that, cut off the excess marabou. Then, to make sure it's on there good, just keep going over, make sure it's nice and tight. Then, you want to tie on your hackle, which will give the fly a bigger form. You want to make sure you go all the way back to the tail. Once that's tied on, you will then cut off a piece of chenille about 10 inches. Lay it on top of the hook and tie that down. Make sure that's on there nice and good. Then once you have those two tied down, you go all the way towards the eye of the hook, which is the hole at the very end where you put the line through. Then just let the bobbin hang. Then you take the chenille and you wrap it going down towards the eye. Make sure it's nice and even. This will give the fly a form. Once you get to the very end, you lift the chenille straight up and you wrap the thread behind it about 3 or 4 times. Then you can cut that off. Then go over it again and make sure it's on there nice and tight. Alright, the next step is to use your clamp, put it on the hackle, and start wrapping the hackle away from your body around the hook, going down towards the eye. You want to do the same thing. When you get down towards the eye, lift it straight up, go back behind it 3 or 4 times. Once you have that done, undo it from the vise or clamp, cut the hackle, and wrap over it. Make sure it's nice and tight. Once you have that done, you're basically done with the fly. You just have to put the finishing knot at the very end so none of the thread comes undone. You want to use the whip finisher. It puts a nice tight knot on the end of the fly. You put it at the very end and you wrap about 7 times. Lift up, pull down with the thread, and let go of the whip finisher. Then cut off the excess thread. To make sure that the thread will not come undone, I'm going to use head cement, which is basically super glue. Just makes the thread stick together. want to let that dry for about 2 or 3 minutes. And once you have that done, you're done with your woolly bugger.